Well, hello and good evening, ladies, the ambassadors here in Nevada. We have our Miss Juneteenth, Charlie Hadley, our first runner-up, Janiyah Shaw, and our second runner-up, Kayla Oliver, with us today. And today is September 19th, 2024. We are doing our history for our Juneteenth this month on the Emancipation Proclamation. So we do have the president of the Juneteenth Nevada organization with us, and she will be sharing some really interesting and informative information for us. And then, of course, we want to chime in and talk about our feeling about the Emancipation Proclamation and how it has played a part in our lives, or if we think it does or doesn't. Okay, so if you could take a moment and just our Nevada Queen, please introduce yourself.
Good evening. My name is Charlie Hadley, your Miss Juneteenth Nevada.
Our first runner-up.
Hi, I'm Janiyah Shaw, Miss Juneteenth first runner-up, Henderson.
And
hi, my name is Kayla Oliver, second runner-up.
ladies, thank you so much for being here with us today. And now I'd like to introduce you to Deborah Evans, our president for Juneteenth Nevada. Hi, Miss D.
Good evening, everyone. Nice to see everyone here tonight. Cheryl, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to you to come more often. We have an open door policy.
And everyone, this is Cheryl Jenkins, and she is the CEO for the National Miss Juneteenth Scholarship Program.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm really looking forward to October 19th and the events leading up to it. Thank you for being involved, and I look forward to meeting you.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Mhm.
So tonight we want to talk about the Emancipation Proclamation. Now, as we all are aware, that with Juneteenth and the scholarship program, one of the requirements is that we recite one of the three freedom documents. Charlie, would you like to tell us what the three freedom documents are?
Of course, the three freedom documents are the Emancipation Proclamation, General Order Number 3, and the 13th Amendment.
Yes. And which document did you decide to do in your recitation?
I decided to do the Emancipation Proclamation.
Yes, you did. Yes. And in the Emancipation Proclamation, in the section that you read, what would you say was one of the most important things that you learned from that document?
So from the section that I read, the most important thing that I've learned or that I said was, in my opinion, was, let me find it.
No worries.
Was when it said, okay, that on the first day of January in the year of our Lord, 1863, all persons held as slaves within any state or designated part of a state, the people whereof shall be in rebellion against the United States, shall be thenceforward, and forever free.
Wow.
That just sentence, I feel like, says so much, and you could really hear the emotion even when just reading the text. So, yes.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Janiyah, out of the three freedom documents, what document did you choose?
I chose the Constitution.
The 13th Amendment?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have a recollection of your document?
Yes, I do. It was saying, can I pull it up?
Yes, of course.
Yeah.
And Kayla, just be on deck and ready so that you'll be able to tell us next, okay? Thank you.
I have all of them except for that one.
It's okay. Do you remember a part of it that was especially important to you, or that you remember that stood out?
I remember that that was the date that they signed it, and that was the date that I read in front of everyone was when when they actually wrote down in fine print that all of the slaves were free on that specific date.
Okay. And we're going to get into that document because it definitely does go with and segues from the Emancipation Proclamation. Kayla, share with us, please.
What I learned from the Emancipation Proclamation, that's what I read, is that um, on that day they let the slaves free in different states in America. It was a lot of states. Do you want me to name them or?
No, it's okay. I do remember as we were going through them.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit more when you say all of those states. What was important about all of those states, or the differences?
What was important was like all of them, in some places some of them decide they could be free, but in all states they were.
Yeah, there were some different things going on in each state.
Yeah.
And certain things happened in one place that didn't happen in the other place. And yes, okay. So we do learn that the Emancipation Proclamation was the document that the president, and who was the president at the time?
Abraham.
There we go, Abraham Lincoln. He set this forth to once and for all unite the United States. Previous to
Excuse me, does anyone know how many states were in rebellion during this time period?
any numbers? Go ahead, Miss D.
Miss Markey, you're not going to answer?
I would say
Okay.
I would say 11.
Okay, you would be right.
Thank you.
It was 11 states in rebellion at the time.
So when we think about the section that you read, Kayla, those were, remember those states that we were reading when
Yes.
it's except for? Okay. So Miss D, would you like to bring us in and up to speed on the Emancipation Proclamation, please?
Well, it was written in September. The Emancipation Proclamation was signed on September 22nd. And because of the laws at that time, we needed 100 days before it could go into effect. Therefore, it was set for January 1 of the following year. On December 31st, people went to their churches and waited for the bells to ring for midnight. And that is where we got the first first watch nights in the church, where the people sat, they prayed, they waited for freedom in those 11 states to go into effect on January 1. And that took us forward to the acknowledgement of the Emancipation Proclamation that took us until 1948 before we had Freedom Day. We now also have February 1st, 1948 was the date that became known as Freedom Day. And we will be acknowledging the signatures of President Lincoln at that time. And we are working on a national bell ringing campaign. So you will be hearing more about that you can take back to school and tell your teachers about, and your churches, that we are asking folks on the 13th hour of the day, 1 p.m. on February 1st across the country. We are asking everyone that has a bell to ring it 13 times to acknowledge and recognize the Emancipation Proclamation signature in September of 1862.
So how did this play a significant part in our lives today? Any of my Juneteenth Nevada Ambassadors? Go ahead, Janaya.
It plays a major part because right now none of us could probably be on this Zoom call right now if they didn't sign it, and we wouldn't have all of the free things that we have now and the opportunities.
Absolutely.
None of that would be for us.
And as you're saying, for us, we all do notice that we are the brown people on the call. And this plays a significant part in our history. Do we have any family members from the South on this call, or anybody that has family from the South? Where from, Charlie?
I do have family in Alabama.
In Alabama? Okay.
Yes.
Any place else?
I have a little bit in like Arkansas, but that's not really.
That's South, that is
Yeah.
South.
Okay.
Yeah.
hmm
And when we look at those states, Kayla, because this was the part of the document that you were reading through, Arkansas was one of those states, if I recall, correct?
Yes, the first one. Yeah.
Yep. So we see how this was truly significant to our history, our family's history, and even our life today. As Ms. D was saying, we're going to be going forward looking at the bell ringings, and these things will signify an opportunity for us when people take a moment to be silent about something that has happened. This will be that same significant time where we take a moment and recognize and remember, so that so if they ask the question, what's that bell ringing for? It's for our Freedom Day and the remembrance of the Emancipation Proclamation being signed. Now, your 13th Amendment to that document, right, Ms. D? The 13th Amendment?
Right.
Was the
That was the legalization that the Senate and the House voted on, which made it a law. Up to that point, the proclamation was strictly a presidential order, a recommendation, which Barack Obama could have done for Juneteenth the same way, but until it went to the House and was voted upon, and until it went to the Senate, it still would have been just a presidential recommendation that we followed out of respect. You do needed to go to the Constitution to amend it to make these things law. So we have the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments that followed quickly together, giving us the freedom to perform and have our liberty to do these things. We also were able to bring the men into voting. They still did not vote the women into voting. And what was the third one, Marquis?
You mean the document?
13th Amendment, the amendment. One was to get the men to voting. One was for the freedom, and then I'm trying to remember what the other amendment was. But those are three very important documents. You should know that after this time period, after we got the 13th Amendment, we did have the right to vote.
Mm-hmm.
We had Black people in office during this time period. In the late 1800s, after 1862, 1870, after we regained our freedom, we did have Black senators. We did have Black elected folks that eventually they were run out of office, but we did have a period where it is not just that we recently be able to get Black people into office. They were there, and then we were shut down by groups like the KKK. We had people coming forward to threaten our families. You have the Wall Street, which was 1921, May 31st and June 1st, where they actually attacked us from airplanes with Molotov cocktails. You have the Rosewood town that was completely destroyed and people left. You know, emancipation looks good on paper, but unless it was enforced, uh, it still was, and it was like the General Order number 3. You needed enforcement on these things, which is why people are still being shot in the back, why they are still on the streets with somebody having a foot on their throat. Uh, we still had lynchings in the late 1890s. My family had 6 cousins that were lynched August 31st, September 1st, 1894. You know, and then further on, we also had the Emmett Tills, 1954. So you've got to keep these things in mind. These things are on paper, but you must continue to fight for the vote. We've got to vote. You've got, when you make 18, when you sign up to vote, sign up. If you have older siblings, your parents, make sure they go out and place a vote, because we had people die for the right to vote. And I'm off track, so let me back down.
So just because she put it out there, does everybody know who the KKK are? Go ahead, Janiyah.
They're a cult that just doesn't like African American people, right?
Do you know what the KKK stands for?
Oh, no.
Kayla, sorry.
The Ku Klux Klan.
That's correct. That's correct. So the Ku Klux Klan, you could call them a cult group. Sure, they qualify under that, but they are an organized group of people that are
American terrorists. They talk today about the Israelis and the people overseas, but the KKK is our version of terrorists.
right, but civil, because we are fighting each other. We're Americans fighting each other. So that's the interesting part of that. Do they still exist? Yes or no?
Yes. Don't
Yes.
they? Yeah.
Yes, they do. So they may not be as, and they've hid in the shadows before, so to speak, but they were out. So it's kind of that take back and forth. So now we have an understanding of the Emancipation Proclamations. I'll say the foundation for our freedom. So going forward, do we think that this is something that we should pass on to our peers? Is this something that we should have conversations about, or does for school, for your history classes, have we heard about the Emancipation Proclamation? Do we understand? Because as Ms. D was sharing with you, there's a difference between what the president puts in and what law says. So once the president says, hey, I'm gonna back this, then we still have to have legislation that comes along. Every state has their constitution. Okay. And in every state's constitution, they either are yes for the 13th Amendment and the Emancipation Proclamation, or no. And they can put those things in. So let's just take, was it Mississippi, Miss D? That
About 15 years ago, they
yes.
finally recognized it.
Yes. So
yes.
Mississippi, up until 2013, did not recognize it. Now, the interesting thing is, because, again, like she said, the president has signed off on this, it kind of, in the society, in their communities, it was kind of being observed and stuff. However, we also know that in the South, in Mississippi, there were other heinous acts that were still happening, like lynchings and things like that. So,
and you had January 6th, 2 years ago.
Right. And so their legal system did, because it's not in their law, it's not in their constitution, there wasn't the penalization against them. Yes, Charlie.
Sorry. But that what you just said then, that is like another reason why I believe the Emancipation Proclamation is so important, because it's like you said, it's coming from the president. You know, it's a state. It is just a statement, so it's not the law. But I feel like it can get just as much as respect because it is coming from the president and stuff like that. And with the law that it was enforced, that law has still been broken. You know, and it's still not respected. So I just want to say that. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine. It's a good stand to recognize that and to understand the gravity behind that. You know, so the president said it, but that didn't mean that everybody was listening or adhering to that. However, we have to go back and look at the fact that Lincoln himself had slaves. Okay. He realized, though, that for our country, because remember, America was this new place, they formed America, this whole newfound land, because they wanted to get out of England and get out from under the Queen. So they came here, and now, of course, with them coming, they're looking, going, okay, we have all of these territories, colonies, all this stuff. This kind of looking like what we just came from. We need to be united. We need to have a united front. Of course, we're the united, and I don't think many people think of it that way. You're saying united. What does that mean? That we're in agreement, that we're together. Exactly. So if we're not united, and at that time, previous to this document, we were not, you had the southern states, they had their free labor, their slaves, and they did not want to get rid of their free labor. Absolutely not. It definitely made a change or a shift in finances, because now you were actually recognizing the people as slaves, you were recognizing them as human beings, and you were being told you needed to pay them, which then made them a part of society. And now here we go forward, and we can just roll that right into our whole civil rights movement with Martin Luther King and so on and so forth. And we're still fighting those things today. So remember that with Juneteenth and our positions in Juneteenth, we always want to recognize pieces of our history, look at our situation today, look at the parallels, the good points, the bad points, things that still need to be worked on, things that, wow, we've come a long way, but we're still, we still have some stuff to strive for, so that we don't wind up repeating the past. Right now, we're in a big election year. And although we don't stand to say that we back one candidate over another or one party over the other, we are aware of what's going on. We are aware of who stands for what. And we do have to make good decisions to keep ourselves aware and educated, so that when you become 18 and you're able to vote, that you completely understand the magnitude of how much your vote truly means in the society